Welcome back to another edition of Doggin It. I am Molina Mike, and I got a very special guest. She is all the way from the UK after a week or so in Atlantic City. Is that right?
I think we were there for like 2 weeks now. Yeah, it was very, very intense, I must say. Um, but yeah, really
Elaborate on
good.
that. Elaborate on the intense part.
It's just this US Open, isn't it? It's 256 players. You got a 6-day event. We go from live stream for 4 days, which that's a production in itself, and then you go
Yep.
into a final 2-day production for the broadcasters. So just when normally when people doing these events, they get set up for day one, and then kind of take a back seat, let the event just get underway. But for us, you're there for a couple of days, and then you got to crank it up a notch, and you got to step it up another gear. Keeps us on our toes, but I mean it's exhausting. But it's why everyone walks around that arena and says, this is class. This is like one of the best setups we've had. Spectators, it was full for the final. We couldn't even accommodate for the players to sit in the seating banks. So hopefully players know next time that they have
They,
to
they got to
reserve
buy a
their
ticket.
tickets. Well, yeah, I don't think, it never seems fair for everyone to for players to have to buy their ticket for the
Right.
final. But then there's got to be two sides to it. They need to understand that spectators are the ones they create the atmosphere, and they are the ones who buy a ticket. They're the committed ones, and we have to make sure that they're accommodated for.
First.
But first and
Right.
foremost, obviously, when
Right.
it comes to
Right.
things like seats, and some of the players just turn up and go, yeah, I need 6 seats now for the final, and that's not how it works.
Drop some
I
names.
think,
Put them under the bus.
no, I won't name names because they all know who they are. But some of them did speak to some of the team a bit meanly, which I think is a little bit unfair. But they all know who they are. But at the end of the day, I think they're not used to that, so I kind of don't blame them. They're used to turning up to an event, staying there for the rest of the week, and I would much rather encourage them to stay there for the week. I want them to see how the
Right.
last 16 turns out, because I want them to then be motivated to make the last 16, because they go, oh my gosh, look at this setup. I want to be walking into this final table setup. So I encourage them to stay there. They just got to be a bit more sensible about the fact that we've now created a product like the Moscone Cup for the US Open final that is in demand. And that final sold out. So when we go and put our tickets on sale for next year, I
You
don't
better
doubt
get
that
them.
it will sell out. And so we have to just make sure that everyone understands the bigger picture side of it. But it was a really successful event. The tournament ran really well. I think we got the deserving champion. And yeah, I think it was a really good sort of 2 weeks for us in Atlantic City. And now it's just we're getting into gear for the Moscone Cup with a champion of champions snooker stop in between.
I want to just transition back to what you guys have to go through when it comes to adjusting for broadcasters. What's that change like for you guys? Because I know, like from a fan's perspective, we notice, some different faces in there, some time in between racks. But what's it like for you guys on the back end?
It's just well, you can imagine the sort of hours that go into it leading up to, and then you're working on site for those hours as well, trying to make sure that the event runs. Um, so then it's a case of the whole production just steps up a gear, and it's not another team sort of coming in to do it. It's still very much that we're involved in that, and it's us sort of driving that as well. So it's it's just you're just cranking it up 10 levels, and the arena changes. So it's not a case of we start all the matches at 10 a.m. and all the matches say finish at 9 p.m. at night. It's not we're coming in at 10 a.m. in the morning and leaving at that time. You have to come in before, you have to make sure everything's
Right.
ready. And then you've got to make sure that the arena's set for the next day if we're changing the design of it, obviously to accommodate for the broadcasters. But then you've also got the referees. They stay late, they pack up all the balls, They come in early and things like that. So I think I mentioned it when we were filming Off the Rail during the week, that the team that we had on site for this one, on the delivery of the tournament, was really, really strong. So we brought over, 4 of our main referees who, travel to the different matchroom events and then work with the local team on site. And where we removed the shot clock operator and we operated the same as the European Open, we found that we had a really good team who, they were happy to, they were saying, I don't want to take a break. I want to make sure that, I want to make sure the tournament's running well,
Right.
who were all communicating with one another. And it was just a really good team support, to be honest. And that's what makes a great event.
Any issues when it comes to players and dragging their feet with no shot clock, no fire under their ass?
No, we had a few matches that I mean, typically this event ran a lot longer. Well, not a lot longer. It ran longer than the European Open. The tables were playing tighter, so I do think that played a factor. And I also think it's just a different caliber of players that come into this one. And we also can't forget that there's an extra $100,000 on the line when it comes to the US Open. The European is $200,000. I'm not saying people are more relaxed, but when
Right.
you're even in those early rounds, it's a lot more prestigious. It's been, the US Open title is a huge title to win. And so I feel that it's probably just a bit more nervy and matches just took a little bit longer. We keep an eye on any main matches that seem to be running a lot longer than what they should be. But unfortunately, we're not at the stage where we can introduce a shot clock throughout the whole tournament. So we just have to manage that as best we can. It didn't, we still ran to good timing.
Agreed.
But the only thing I think it was quite disappointing to see is it's really just like players' apparel, which is still becoming it's still a thing. Probably worse in the US
What do
at
you
the
mean?
US
Not
tournament.
dressing professionally enough? Is that what you're
Yeah,
getting at?
you got people turning up with tracksuit bottoms or wearing, you know, t-shirts that aren't the dress code. And I mean, we make it extremely clear what the dress code is, and also we're not too funny about it. We're not saying you have to turn up in a suit like snooker sort of thing.
Right.
You're not wearing a tie. They get to bring their own jersey. It's smart trousers, and we're also really flexible in the footwear. It's sort of black sneakers or shoes. So we're not asking for the world here, but for players to be turning up and going, oh, my jersey's in my room. Are you kidding me? It's the US Open. Also, your room's like 2 minutes away. Have a bit more professionalism about yourself.
Who's the
But
one
you've
delivering that message to the players? Is what I want to know. Is it
uh
you or is it someone else? Because there's a big difference, I'd
it's
imagine.
there is a big difference because the first point of call is the referees. The referees are all instructed what the dress code is, just like how they know the rules are. The referees know what the rules are, and within that rule, there is a dress code rule, and they know straight away if a player has turned up and they're inappropriately dressed. So they flag it, and then they get the sob story straight away, and they get warned. So it gets communicated to the player. If your next match, you turn up and you do not wear your appropriate clothing, you will get a warning, and that gets straight away notified to me. And so I will make sure I go to the next match and I will go and look to see whether they're wearing the correct apparel. But it's just sad that we have to go through that process.
Well,
But it's
how
okay. We'll keep educating the players. That's fine. It's part of our responsibility. Um,
Yeah, but I mean,
but yeah,
everyone's adults. I would. It's hard to be babysitting adults. I don't know, man. That's a bit of a reach for me.
no, it's part of the job. I think we got two teams, a Team Europe and a Team USA at the Moscone Cup. That takes mothership to a whole new level. It's put me off children for life.
We're gonna get there in a little bit. Um, how would you rate this field at the U.S. Open relative to other events you guys have had
I
in the
just
last, let's
think,
say, 2 years?
I personally think, obviously, I'm super biased about it, but I'd love to see someone, give me a reason to say otherwise. But each of our events are better than the last. All of this year, you can, speaking to any of the top pros or even just new players that are coming onto the scene, the UK Open was the best event so far. Okay, then they all went to, no, hang on, the World Championship was the best event so far. Then they all went to the UK Open and they said that was the best event. Then they all went to the European Open and said, this is the best setup. This is the best event so far. Then they all go to the US Open, better than last year, better than this, because we're good at our job. We know if we need to make improvements. And the whole time that we're at the US Open or at these events, we're identifying what we can improve on, and we're just learning along the way. And I just think that each event is always better than the last one. And we will just continue to be operating in that manner. So I just think it's a really, really great event. I think, again, the teams that we had on site were really strong. There's, a lot of things that we can be doing to improve on. There's always just like how we conduct the tournament, how we produce this show, just new things that we can be introducing to it. I won't sort of divulge any secrets onto here because you'll just have to tune into the next one and find out.
Of course.
But I think we're just going to be doing so many events that it's not that it's going to become, continuous, because that's not what we're about. I think we're just going to be getting a lot stronger at running multi-table events. Everyone always spoke about how good we were at the single table setups, and I think now we're really coming into our own with how we handle 256 players in a professional manner, because we're asking the players to be professional. We're asking them to dress professional, turn up, play their matches, behave. But at the end of the day, we should be creating a professional platform for them to win these events in. And like I said, they should be sat in the best arena. And if you're winning the trophy, if you're winning the title, you have to be in the toughest arena, you have to be in the toughest conditions, and you have to be put under pressure. And that's what we do. We put you under pressure. And that's what any sportsman or athlete goes up against.
Do you think these events are going to help with attendance when it comes to these invitationals like the World Pool Masters or the World Cup of Pool, where we've seen empty seating before at certain locations?
Yeah, I mean, don't live in cuckoo land. We know what events draw in more spectators, but we've also identified those areas where we can actually create a better atmosphere. But again, it's getting the dates in the diary. It's getting a home for these events, like we've done with the US Open with Atlantic City at Harrah's. Everyone knows that when you say Harrah's, it's the home of the US Open. Doesn't matter whatever tournament goes on there or any other event, it's the home of the US Open. And so we will create demands for these finals, because everyone was sat on the edge of their seat in that final. Everyone was sat on the edge of the seat of the European Open. Yeah, these are the events and these are the shows that we are creating. People want to tune in and will stay until the end of those semi-finals, of that final. And so, we've got a job on our hand, the World Pool Masters, the World Cup of Pool, where they go, the World Pool Championship. Let's create atmosphere and let's get the crowds in.
You mentioned the final and it was pretty good. I want to get your thoughts on Francisco and the year that he's had. You've seen it firsthand at a lot of your events, but he's also done well in other events on the Matchroom calendar as well. That's the wrong one. Where what are your thoughts on Ruiz, Emily?
I mean, it's, when you're even like out of the UK Open and he was runner-up to Filler at that time, your heart goes to them because you see how much passion they have and how much they want to win it. And it just felt like Francisco was on this journey for the Moscone Cup this year. And when I saw him at the PRP Open in Zaragoza earlier this year, I said to him, so, how are you feeling about the Moscone? Do you think you're pretty much nailed on? He was like, Emily, in the back of my mind, it's there constantly. It's always there, Moscone. He was like, but I can't bring it to the front of my mind and think about it because he needs to stay focused. And he didn't want to get excited at all about the Moscone until he knew it was nailed on, and that was it. So I think the storyline of Francisco and how he's qualified is exactly why the 9-ball world rankings exist, because that right there is transparency. Everyone knows that Francisco has traveled to these ranking events, including Matchroom, including the non-Matchroom events, but they're part of the 9-ball portfolio.
Right.
He has traveled to those. He has put in the commitment. He has gone to these events, and he's just been going like this. He's just been knocking on those, those ranking points. Start with the Derby City, and he's just been adding them up. And he is your storyline. He is your story of basically how you travel to these ranking events, earn your ranking points, and get into an event from order of merit. And it's exactly why they exist. And I think it is an absolute beautiful storyline, because it's a great showcase for what we're trying to preach, what we're trying to push, and what we're trying to promote in this ranking system. Because all of a sudden you touch base, it's a little bit, I'm going off subject, but someone like Oscar Dominguez, he sometimes felt that he was like shafted a little bit with the Moscone Cup, for instance.
Right.
He would be traveling to an event and he wouldn't be getting picked or something like that. He's automatically qualified.
Yeah.
That is the pure transparency of it. Yeah, we got 2 wild cards up our sleeve in case we want to put Ronnie O'Sullivan in, for instance, for Team Europe. But
please tell me, please. I'll be watching either way, but that would be quite the turn.
It would. So it's just everything about Francisco. I mean, it's a promoter's dream. Everything about that, he deserves that entry into the Moscone Cup. And even though he came runner-up at the UK Open, for instance, and you felt like he was kind of there, but never quite getting there.
But that's when he lost the first round, though, wasn't it? Is that the one where he lost? So that was a storyline in and of itself. He loses the first round, almost goes out the second match that he played on one loss, and then fights his way all the way to the final.
And I just think everything happens for a reason, because when we were there at the UK Open, obviously we think with like a TV head on, and we're sitting there thinking, well, storyline, this is great. He wins his first round and he gets through all of the, the loser's side, and then he wins the tournament. And then so you see that he's runner up and you're a little bit gutted about it, because you think, oh, that storyline was good. But everything happens for a reason. Him coming runner up there has led into these events of him winning the US Open, which I will say is a much bigger title than the UK Open. It's much more prestigious. It's much more prize money. And you could see it in his eyes. And you just felt like, and I think the whole pool community, and I don't want to, no disrespect to Max Lettner, there was also that storyline for him too. If he won, he got into the Moscone. But this is the whole point of this ranking system. It's creating this transparency of being able to get into these events. So really well deserved from Francisco. And I think I don't need to say anything more about it. He's put in the work, he's grafted, he's grinded, he's gone to the ranking events, and it's come through for him.
It ended up working out pretty well for you guys leading to the last day, because there was a lot of potential drama that could have happened on the European side heading into the last event, the last day, the last few matches. Is that what you were hoping for when you came up with the rankings, or did it just kind of like, oh shit, we're here and this is pretty fantastic?
I think we always knew. I mean, obviously it's our dream to, like I say, we're promoters at the end of the day. We're not, pool enthusiasts. We know what's going to produce viewing figures. We know what's going to create talking points. And the way that everything was unfolding, even like the TV presenter made a mistake and said, "Oh, Max, you're into the Moscone." And I was like, "What?"
I heard about it.
And I felt so bad for Max.
Who told her that was the wrong idea? Who told her that was the wrong line?
Well, it's just, there was so much, so many different things going on, and it was adding the prize money, but it was also, if certain people got there and you go to that point. And when Francisco, made that point, we had to really double check everything, because obviously we didn't want to tell him and it was the wrong news to be telling him. So it's the thing is that we always knew that the ranking points would create this, because you kind of had it with Team Europe when we were doing the Team Europe rankings beforehand, but it wasn't very well structured, wasn't very well organized, and it was just a little bit too bob the way that that was happening. This is a lot more professional. This is more structured. It's based on prize money won, and it contributes. It's for the whole world. So there's a ranking system for the whole world now in 9-ball. So for us, you know that you're going to create a storyline. Regardless, there's always going to be a storyline when it comes. Now we're doing things on order of merit, because it's not just, wild cards here and there. You get into the top events through order of merit, and that's how it should be.
Okay, so now the Matchroom calendar's rolling over, right? The U.S. Open is the end of the season, so to speak, and then it's going to go and start over. What's the incentive for these non-European and Americans to, I don't want to say show up, but, what are they striving for, Emily, when you talk about all these players from Asia and other parts of the world?
Yeah, I think that we were quite sidetracked with, I think because we've always had the Moscone Cup, it's been very hard to not come away from USA and Europe. And again, like before, we were just doing a ranking system based on Team Europe. Whereas now, and I think following the trip to the Asian Open event that the APF did, that we obviously supported,
right,
it's opened the doors, it's opened ideas for what's to come. Because again, we have to do something for the international circuit. We are building a world 9-ball tour. So, and that's not a world Europe and USA tour. We recognize it has to be a world tour of international players from everywhere. And so that's part of our mission. It's part of our responsibility and our journey as to how we address that. Like you said, we finished the US Open, and it's only really certain players who have stayed out in the US who will go to the International Open and earn ranking points there.
Right.
Then you've got the World Championship, for instance, next year. That's what they're earning their ranking points for on a global stage. Rankings will get you into that World Championship event, but we have to create something for everyone, which is something that we are working on. And I'm very confident that it's something we can achieve fairly soon.
Some of these guys who are, let's say, ahead in their respective countries, are they going to get automatic picks for like the World Cup of Pool, let's say, for instance?
So the World Cup of Pool, it will be so straightforward, where you have 32 teams. Obviously, the host nation always gets the two teams. But the World Cup Pool moving forward will just be straight, the top 24 players on the 9-ball world rankings. It will be the top 24 countries. So, if at the moment you've got Albin, Mario, Max, right, in the rankings.
I think that's so. I want to say that's so.
Hang on. I don't want to say something that's totally inaccurate, so I'm just going to get this
here. Don't go breaking anyone's heart today.
No, so this is from the European. This is after the US Open.
Too, man. I dogged it.
So you've got Albin ranked number 4, Mario He ranked number 5, and Max Lettinen ranked number 6. Now, if you're looking at the World Cup of Pool that's not in Austria, you're going for the top 24 countries off of this ranking list, right?
Right.
Spain as number 1, or the seed from last year. Spain, USA, Germany, Austria. Now, if you're looking at Austria, you're picking the 2 top ranked players. That's currently Albin and Mario. And Max will miss out on that. But that's based on this current sheet right here. So the way that everything will move forward is that everyone and all the players will be able to see where the cutoffs are. So for the World Cup of Pool, this is the last event that the rankings count towards. This is the cutoff. So everyone will know that when that event concludes, that is when the World Cup of Pool is selected, based on the rankings after that. You can see that this is what the snooker, this is what the darts do, and this is where I'm saying that we built these successful tours, and this is where we can look at those tours and say, okay, so what works and how do we apply this to pool?
But you're still a promoter, and you still love putting on a good TV show. So like
Of course.
you're still gonna have the ability to, trump something that, you may feel is in the better interest of eyes. Am I wrong in saying
Think,
that?
no, because we'll hold wild cards as well.
Right.
So
Okay.
just as we do for the Moscone Cup,
Right.
you get your three that are qualifying through, and then you have your two wild cards. So it's finding that balance. We can't be preaching to everyone we're going off order of merit if we then just say that's not the case and we're picking wild cards. But again, we cater to big broadcasters and we have to think about a TV show. So it's about transparency for the players. So they will know this is how you get into the World Cup pool. This is off the rankings, but these are also wild cards there.
Well, let's
That makes
transition
sense?
over. No, it does. I think these weren't questions that I was anticipating going and asking, to be honest with you. But I appreciate you being
Yeah,
open to responding to it. I think it just makes for more exciting things to go and watch from a fan's perspective. More things for guys to go and fight for from the player side. Because if, let's say, they're in the thick of it, like a Max or Mario may have been fighting for a World Cup or pool spot. Well, hell, now
yeah,
that match becomes a lot more weighted because it has much more significance
exactly.
for next year, which
Exactly. And it
I'm going to want to
gives the
watch even
ranking,
more.
yeah, and it gives the ranking event that it is concluding to a lot more status. All of a sudden, an event that was existing on, just the nine ball calendar, just any sort of calendar, it's a nine ball event that was maybe getting 25% of the top players. Now all of a sudden, everyone knows that is the cutoff for the World Cup of pool. And you're telling
Yep.
me you're not gonna increase participation levels and you're not gonna get more drama, more people tuning into that show. This is what I mean. This is why organizers, promoters coming together for one schedule works, because it's all about this structure. It's all about giving the players a fair opportunity to get to the big stages, and also the other promoters, the other organizers. So now all of a sudden, a stream that may have only reached 700 viewers, 1,000 viewers on their final, if that is a conclusion of a World Cup of pool team, you're going to look at much stronger viewing figures for that, all
Right.
because they have that partnership with the matchroom rankings. So it's about bringing everyone together. It's about bringing the audiences together, and it's about it's the world is a much bigger place than just this pool industry, and we need to be appealing to a much wider audience, and that means more viewership across all of the matchroom, across all of the nine ball events.
We talked about storylines early on when it came to Max and Francisco, and there were a number of them. Mario was still in it until he was out. Alvin
Yeah,
going out as early as he did. Kachi even having a shot there at the end. Kazakis. I mean, you name it. But there was one early on with Captain America and a young American going and playing a match on the TV table, and Joey Tate. I'm not gonna bring it up. I just want to get your thoughts on how that match went and just the overall drama of it.
I think I mentioned it on Off the Rail that it was. I think I was watching one of the other tables, and at another, and basically you just walk around with Q Score on your app sort of thing, on your phone, and you're just walking around looking at the matches, and it's popping up all on our group chat. We've got a big nine ball group chat that everyone's talking, saying, "Look, Shane's blah blah down," and I was like, "What is going on?" Like, I heard about this Joey Tate, his name just being floated around, I think because he made like a Team America on another event, and I was wondering, who he is, basically, with no disrespect to him. Um, because he might be, big time sort of in the US on that side of things. When it comes to the matchroom stage, he hasn't got any experience on that side of things. And so I went over and had a watch, and I must have gone over at the wrong time because I sat down and it was like the second rack that happened with the with
You were the
the
jinx.
wrong order. I probably jinxed it. And you could tell straight away, what was happening. And
Yeah.
I think I mentioned it. I was just watching Shane's body language, and it was, at the end of the day, look at how viral the clip went.
Yeah.
So I love it.
It was at the expense of Joey, but I'm sure he'll learn from it. I found out
Listen,
when,
we
or I'm
just
watching when I see the name initially, and I know Joey, I was like, I don't think I really want to watch that match because I'm thinking Shane's just gonna steamroll him. And then I got a message
yeah,
like you
yeah,
did, and it's like Joey's up 5-0 on Shane, and I'm like, what the hell do you mean he's up 5-0? And that's when I start watching,
yeah,
and you kind of saw things kind of the wheels kind of came off a little bit, kind of got a little shaky here or there, and
mm.
gave away some games, but I don't think anybody expected what happened. I think the five ball conversation seems to be a little bit more played out because it's been so many years, and that's been my my point on it. But hell, did it make for a great
Oh, it was
a great clip.
absolutely brilliant. And I don't even think it was at Joey's expense because, in my opinion, you know, from a matchroom perspective, it put Joey Tate on the map, which was one of the best things
It
that
did.
could have
Great.
he could have done. In my opinion, he went onto a stream table at a matchroom event in a matchroom arena versus the world champion, where he was the underdog. He was looking
Big
like he
time.
was going to get whitewashed just going into the game,
Right.
and he held his own. He didn't get whitewashed. He held his own, and he created um, a talking point of everyone saying Joey Tate. And like I said, him. A lot of people know him, but a lot of people didn't know him.
Agreed.
So as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned, he's on the map. And out of it, I got a great viral clip and everyone talking about the event. And if someone clicked on that view and on that clip and wasn't watching the US Open beforehand, then I say that's a huge tick. But we've given Joey the experience that he needs in order to look at his future in nine ball pool and to look at a professional pool future. So I think it's one of the best things that could have happened, and it's really set him up for interviews, how he deals with certain things, and you
Oh, he'll
know,
be ready for the rest of his life after fading all you
of
guys.
course, he'll never make the mistake again. But also, I know Shane was getting a lot of stick for it, and which I totally disagree with. It's a US Open title at the end of the day, and you can't expect him to be, fit. Also, that doesn't give Joey the the sportsmanship or gamemanship that he needs in order to improve as an athlete. So
100% agree.
if you are that, you're that age and you're coming into this and you're looking to be a professional pool player and you're getting, you've made a mistake, but you're being gifted that mistake and you're saying, and someone's saying to you, oh, you're making a mistake here. He needs to learn from those mistakes in order to produce a stronger champion. So I think it was a great talking point, and I just always think if people are talking about it, then absolutely great. And if it means that I take the slack on the wrong order of the balls, that's absolutely fine.
No, that never happens to you, Emily. Ever. No, Joey said all the right things, but one thing about Joey is that he doesn't say something he doesn't mean. He's a very sincere kid, and I'm sure you got that vibe going and
Yeah,
meeting him and talking with him. I saw a lot for all the slack that Shane got. I also saw a lot of guys stick up for him,
good. Yeah, he didn't deserve
Jason
that, I
included.
don't think.
No,
Yeah,
not at all. But it was great. And what I want to ask you is that last year, leading up to like the Masters, there were a lot of players who had decent runs that got in as wild cards. Are these the type of players that you go and look for in these events? That kind of are making up talking points throughout the year, because there was like guys like Youngo, even like a Loho Sum, who got a wild card pick and then makes it into a final at the World Pool Masters. Are these the type of like storylines that you're keeping an eye out throughout the year?
yeah, and also the whole point of the wild cards is, yeah, it's a TV show at the end of the day, but it's an opportunity for us to give that award, that chance for a player who may not have that chance. He might just be always knocking on that door and he might not just get in. We also, there's a load of factors that come into play. If we get, say, two dropouts last minute of the wild cards, we have to think, who can we get there in 3 days' time? Who needs a visa? Who needs that?
Logistics.
So
Yeah.
that's logistics. That's something separate. If we're looking 6 months before, then, it's a totally different story. But again, these are storylines. If Joey Tate had gone and won that and had a really good, run sort of thing, it's the ranking points will show it at the end of the day. But yes, these are the storylines where we turn around and go, okay, well, maybe they deserve a wild card. So any wild card we give out, we sit, we talk about it, we examine it for time and time before we make any decision on it. So I think it's something that you're always going to upset someone, but we
Of
try
course.
to take a step back and look at the bigger picture. And I think that it's something that we're doing really well.
I want to just circle back to Francisco real quick because there was a question I meant to ask and I didn't, and then we're going to talk about some other wild cards. Um, who was the? I saw a clip on Instagram where you're walking up on him, FaceTiming his dad, and
Oh,
I want to just ask you about that.
oh, it was yeah, it was really, really good, really good. It was, we obviously broke the news to him, and
Who
um,
when you say we, who's we?
um, I'm not going to reveal anything because we've got a few little features going out to obviously
Okay,
talk to show that. So I don't want
okay.
to, but I'll just say that you can watch that journey on Matchroom Pool, which will be available, and it's a really cool little journey of Francisco finding out sort of thing, and him FaceTiming his dad. He was on the phone for ages. I think I
Really?
remember going over there and saying, you got to go play a match soon. So you could just see the excitement, and he was like telling everyone, and it was um it was lovely to see, like so nice. And I think that just those moments remind you how big these events are, how big it is for these players. And it's also justification to Francisco. All of those hours that he may have drove to those, smaller ranking events, all of the hours of the traveling, like late nights of long matches, a proper grind where he may have come along and gone, why am I a pool player? Why am I doing this for?
Right.
And not maybe getting those results. That moment is that justification of you going, I
Well,
deserve this.
he had a lot of years where he was knocking on the door, but then he's always, the afterthought of Team Spain, because of successes that David's gone and had. And it's been great to see him
Yeah,
step into his own shoes and be his own player and just had
exactly.
a phenomenal year. I've talked to a lot of guys. I saw a post from Kachi saying the year that Francisco had was remarkable. I've talked to Federer who said that Francisco's year was one of the best that he's ever seen. A lot of players really like him. They give him the
Mm-hmm.
respect because of the way that he's played the game and the achievements that he's had. Um, I want to transition over into wild cards. When can we expect to have more announcements? Because you mentioned after the U.S. Open, but that was a vague time frame, and technically we are after the U.S. Open.
I'm
So a
never
lot of a lot
vague.
of no, yeah, it was a wide range. When can
I'm
fans start
playing
to
for Team
expect?
Europe.
Oh
So
well,
that's
that we
wild card number one.
USA may have a chance now.
I know. Why do you think I would do
Yeah.
it? Look, very, very soon. Very, very soon.
Do
People
you
will know
know
the wild
already?
cards.
Do you know the wild card picks already,
Uh,
or do you know close? Because everyone's
I
being
would,
real tight-lipped, by the way. Because
yeah,
I've been, tr-
how it should be.
I've been trying to find out, and I have not been able to find out. So you would be proud of that because I've been known to find out a thing or two from time to time.
Yeah, which I nearly killed you on.
It did,
Um,
yeah. That's how we met, actually.
yeah. I would be lying if I said no. I'd be lying if I said yes. No.
So soon,
Don't
though.
know. I'm just going to leave you with that.
Jeremy, Jeremy said maybe at the beginning of next week. So is it going to be over or under? Let's say Monday. First pick announced. First wild
What's the
card.
day today?
Friday.
I don't know. Of
What do you
course I
mean?
know.
We need something. We need something. My phone's been blowing
Just
up.
just be patient. You know, it's you're gonna find out soon. You're gonna find out who's. If I was gonna say to you, right, you had to bet like $500 on me right now. Who are the four wild cards?
Would I go? Would I fire 500 at it?
Yeah,
I probably would. Uh,
right. Go on then. Who
yeah,
is it? Who are you thinking?
I think it's going to be Tyler and Wolford for Team USA. It unless you guys throw in Earl as a monkey wrench, but on Team Europe, I think it's going to be I think it's Jason 100%, and I'd bet my house on it. And then um, that last pick is tough, but I'm gonna go today. At the beginning of the week, I probably would have said Federer. Today, I'd probably say David.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've got a really good poker face, by the way. So if I'm laughing, it means I'm like trying to double bluff you. So don't try and be like she's smirking. So that means it's true.
Oh, believe me. No, this is what happens. So my phone starts blowing up after the fact. What did she say after? What did she say off air? Did you get any hints whenever you guys were done with? I mean, my phone just goes off and off and off. You have no idea, and not just from fans, but from players. It's really created quite the buzz, and it's like that every year. But this year just seems a little different. This year
I think,
seems the excitement, the
yeah.
buzz of it just seems different
Well,
than any other year.
it seems really bizarre because when we were doing 3 events a year, you would have thought that there was more excitement towards the Moscone Cup because there wasn't as many events, and there weren't really any other events happening as well. But
Right.
it's actually quite the opposite because we're now doing so many. The pool's there, and
Yeah.
in a couple of years' time, it's going to be there every week. You're not going to be able to run away from it. And it's constantly going to be there as a talking point. Who's making the Moscone? Who's making this other event? Who's making this? So I think it actually creates a lot more tension. All I'm
You
going
mean
to say
all,
is,
all the events? You mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. There's going
Yeah.
to be, because it's just more that you can follow now,
Right.
more structure for the players. And I think that when the players have more structure like that, they can go in there and play their game. Whereas they don't have to worry about whether they need to go and be friends with someone or they have to go and, kiss off some other person or whatever. They get through as to how they play on that table. But I will say that I think there's kind of like a left fielder in there. There's
So
there's
that
there's
so then
something,
my
there's
picks
one
may
in
not be
there.
on point, is what you're saying. I would have lost the 500. Then is what you're telling me.
You would have lost the 500.
Wow. Okay, now you're gonna really get me thinking. I'll find out. I won't post it because I know better now, but I'll find
I'll
out.
find out. You won't. Everyone's
um,
under contract.
no, I know. Believe me, it was and we try to respect it by but still going
I know
and
you just
and
get
I,
all excited about it. And you
this
know
is
what?
what's
I
great.
love that.
We've been able to talk about Moscone Cup picks all year long, and this is what I love
Yeah.
about the rankings. And you really nitpick, matches, progress, successes, shortcomings, whatever. And then you got like what ended up happening, in the last day at the U.S. Open, where you have Kachi, Mario, Alex, all these guys,
Mm,
Max fighting and still being able to steal a spot at the very end.
yeah.
Um, and then you have guys like Tyler, who had a remarkable run in the single
Yeah.
elimination. So it's just these storylines are created because of all the events, and it really just it's that much more engaging and dynamic and exciting to go and watch. But the pool
It's
is pretty
like we
good
did it
too.
on purpose.
No, not you guys. But the quality of the 9 ball is a lot better with the break.
Yeah.
It's a lot
Yeah,
better.
I completely agree. I think
So, and
anyone who doesn't see that is probably sitting facing a wall watching the paint dry. Um, I think you just got it's created a competition. And it's not like at the end of the day, I think what's beautiful about nine ball is that it before when we had this one, listen, I'm gonna talk like I've fallen in love with the sport. I haven't been a player. I think everyone knows that. I think probably why I get a lot of stick because I'm not a player. Um, but the one on the spot and what was happening recently and why it's been an issue recently, it hasn't been good for the nine ball events and it hasn't been good commercially. It hasn't been good for a TV point of view. And we noticed that, we recognized it, and that's why we've obviously made adjustments and made changes because we have to try and factor everything in. Now, when you look at these recent events, the US Open and the European Open, that stage is the most pressured stage that you can come under. It's, that's when your nerves are going to go in these
right.
arenas. Great. Now, the equipment, what they're playing on, they're playing on this great equipment, but also now the break it shows a different side of the game that we weren't really seeing before. And we're not trying to turn 9-ball into snooker. That's not what we're trying to do. And I want to make that really, really clear. We're not trying to change the game of 9-ball to say that it's, you know, it's the toughest form of the game or whatever. We know that 9-ball has an element of luck, a little bit lady luck, I like to say. But that's why it's so beautiful to these TV viewers tuning in. There is an ounce of luck on there. There is. And now you've got that little element of luck, which is exciting. It's engaging. It keeps you at the edge of your seat. It produces that luck, creates emotion. That arena creates emotion.
Yeah.
You will not see these characters that you see at our events anywhere else, because our arenas and this format brings out something different about these players, where their rawness and their emotion comes out because everything is on the line. But there's a little bit of luck there, and you see them make the break and they don't have any luck on it, and you can see that rawness on their face and they've got to come back fighting. But then you also see there's a little bit more safety battle in there. Now everyone tuning in at home have a lot more respect for these players. They go, oh, you know, they're not sitting there going, I can make that shot. That's not what we're trying to achieve, but we're not trying to, you know, turn the sport into something that it's not. So I think that's why it's so beautiful, because you have an element of that. You have that in like poker. You can have that in darts as such, but that's what makes 9-ball so special.
And just for the record, we are going to have this break for the Moscone Cup this December, because I'm pretty sure you said it last time. Okay,
yeah,
just want to make sure. It makes a big difference. The game is completely different. I think it levels it out.
I don't think Shane will be happy about it. But...
Well, not if it's played in South Texas. I can tell you that.
No,
because that was pretty brutal against Jason.
But yeah, it's part. Again, I've made it really clear. It's still part of trials. We never want to make a decision like that without having a look at how it plays out at the different events. So we never thought it was an issue at the Moscones, for instance, when we had one on the spot. No. So, you know, let's follow the European Open, let's follow the US Open, let's keep the break rules as they are, and let's see what happens.
What was I going to ask you? We talk about the break, and it really made for a dynamic final. There really wasn't a whole lot of hills, except I think towards the last day. It's usually you had like hiccups throughout events, but it seems like you guys are getting a lot better at producing these multi-table events. I'm curious though, when it comes to the other events that you're not putting on directly, but under the same umbrella, being rankings, are they going to have to follow this same guideline when it comes to formats? Primarily the break.
There's a criteria that's set out, and there's certain rules that we say are mandatory, and there's certain rules that we say are encouraged. You know, we encourage you to follow these break conditions because we feel at the moment that this is how it should be followed. But again, you know, the break rules that we're doing, they're not the official WPA rules. And they're not our official, you know, we're trialing it still at the moment. So we can't be telling other people, you've got to do this when we're still trialing it.
That's fair.
We've got to try and be fair to the other organisers. And, you know, it's not up to us to come in and say, you've been running an event great for 20 years. By the way, you've got to change it all just to suit us. So I think that after this year, we've seen what organisers can and can't do and what they can be flexible on. And it's just us trying to work with them, not against them. And so, yeah, there is a criteria in place, but it's more of a flexible criteria. And I think it's something that's just going to develop, and it will standardize things for moving forward.
You teased more events being added in an interview, I think during the US Open. What kind of when can we expect, if anything, to hear, or is the calendar going to remain the same for 23 as far as the frequency?
No, more are coming.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say.
So when no, you can't just leave it at that. You gotta give a little
No,
something. When can they
no.
expect to be announced? That before the end of the year, after the end of the year, during the Moscone Cup when everyone in the world is going to be watching?
Well,
I
that would be a promoter's
think that
dream, wouldn't it?
I think so. So then you're saying there's a pretty good chance. I like it.
Listen,
Um,
more events are coming, so it's just a case of us working to getting those over the line and getting it announced for all the players, so then they know what their schedule is for next year. That's the most important thing. The players need to know what their schedule is, how they can earn their ranking points, and so that's a priority for us.
from the guys here at home, myself included, the U.S. Open was pretty great. The scoreboard watching, the drama of it, from the Moscone Cup to just the quality of the TV, everything was pretty top shelf. Usually we come out here like talking a lot of shit when it comes to like little things that you guys do, and we
You've
really
got
don't have
nothing else to
anything.
talk about anymore.
No, no. Well, no. Now we can talk about pool and pool players and all the successes they've had. So it's been great. But no,
Yeah,
in all honesty, though, you guys did a hell of a job.
yeah.
You and your whole
Thank you.
team.
Yeah,
So
no, everyone did a really good job with it. We've really got a we've really got a neat team now, and yeah, I feel really proud,
all right, let's
really
get you out
proud
of
of
here on
everything they've
this.
done.
You mentioned more seats being added for the Moscone Cup. Is that still in the
Yes,
works? And
that is in the works.
when can they expect to be released?
Probably in the next 2 weeks.
Okay. How many are you going to add roughly? Because I think it was at 25 before or
I'm gonna
2,000 before.
try. I'm gonna try and do another couple of hundred in there. So I just want to double check all the sight lines and things. I don't want to put extra seats on if people aren't happy where they're buying the tickets for. So it's just something. Just been a little bit sidetracked with the US Open, Mike. So can you just give me a bit of breathing space?
It's been a couple of days. No, no, no rest for the weary, man. Ah, no.
So yeah,
Congratulations.
no, we will be releasing tickets soon. I want to say in the next 2 weeks that we should be releasing a couple of hundred more.
A lot of people are going to be excited for it. I'm excited for this Moscone Cup. I think
Yeah,
it's going to be a lot closer than years past. Americans are still going to be underdogs, but that break really changes things, and you saw it.
it does. Yeah,
You saw it from the last two events that included that break. So,
yeah,
anyway,
definitely.
we'll let you go. I appreciate you making time for us as always, and this
Thank
was a
you.
bit different because we didn't have anything to really go back and forth about. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. Now, on that note, before I let you out of here,
Oh,
so
by the
we
way, our rate at Bally's, if you're booking your spectator hotel rate, I think the secure rate that you can get as a fan finishes next week. At the end of next week, after that, you have to pay a higher fee or higher price. So
so it's
if
cheaper
you're
now.
coming to the Moscone and you haven't booked your hotel, I'm telling you, go to matchandpool.com, go to the Moscone Cup, and you can find the link to go to your exclusive hotel rate. Otherwise, next week, at the end of next week, that will be a lot more expensive. So I'd say if you're coming, you ain't booked your hotel, do it now.
Well, you heard it here first.
Sorry.
I gotta let the stream in because I can smell my daughter's been spraying some perfume in the next room because I can smell it all the way over here. So there's something's going on.
How old is she?
She just turned 3. She's just
Oh,
turned 3, and
bless
she's been
her.
and she loves watching pool. Ironically enough, she'll come and hang out with
Oh
me in my office
gosh.
and watch it. So
No, steer her in a different direction.
oh, trust me, I try to, but she's stubborn like her dad too. So it's uh it's tough to fade. Emily, we appreciate you making time. Thanks like always. So, and
Of course.
congratulations on a great U.S. Open.
Thank you.